Welcome to the Unquendor Guitars workshop for another part in the video series where I show you very in depth what goes into making one of my electric guitars. For anyone new to my channel or to this video series, I've been working on this guitar for a couple of weeks now. So if you're interested in how it all started, please check out the first episode and you can catch up. I've been sanding this guitar all week, so it's time to apply some stains. So here we go. This week I've been sanding this guitar body. Off camera I didn't want to bore you guys with the process of sanding. It's one of the most tedious jobs on any guitar build. It's hours and hours of sanding. Starting of course with a rough grit about 120 and go up to the grits 220, 240, 380, 400, 600, and what I like to do as a final step, I like to take some wire wool or some steel wool and really polish up the guitar, so any possible scratches hopefully show up, and when they do I have to start over again, or at least go back a couple of grits and start sanding again until I'm convinced there are no more scratches, at least on all of the maple I'm going to stain today. I also made a couple of test pieces this week and I hope the color shows up on camera. It's very hard to see for me on a small little screen how much picks up. I'm going for a very dark purple, and I made these test pieces just to familiarize myself with these stains and to practice the technique and how much of each color I had to apply to get the desired effect. They look great, so I'm sure it will turn up nice on the body. So I'm going to use these Sustains from TLC Guitars. I'll put a link to their website down below. There are vibrant guitar stains, the charcoal black and I believe the popping purple. I'm going to apply a couple of coats of black first, and I finish it off with just a light coat of purple, so I get a real dark guitar body with just purple highlights, I hope. So before I can start applying the stain, I need to mask off the false binding on this guitar. I don't want any stains to end up on the black limba, and for that I'm going to use this, I think it's special masking tape. It's a paper-like masking tape. You can stretch around corners somewhat. To some extent it's better than usual masking tape. It's very flexible. You can really stretch it around the corners. So let me get started on masking off this guitar body. So I masked off the entire circumference of the guitar. I also put some masking tape on the beginning of the fretboard, and off camera you can't see it. I also masked off the sides of the headstock. Usually you don't have to mask off the sides when the surface you want to stain goes all the way to the sides. When you apply the stain from the center outwards, the chances of dripping are minimal. But like I said in the beginning, I'm not that confident with stains, so I masked off everything. And I also have my cover plates for the back prepared for staining as well. So the first layer I'm going to apply is a layer of this charcoal black. So I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to use mostly a sponge brush to apply the stain. I've tried this out and it works very great instead of using a paper towel. I've got my paper towel at hand for any drips or spills, and maybe touch up some spots where I can't get in with the brush. So shake well before use. Make sure there's no particles or dust left on the guitar body. It looks like I'm ready to go. here we go. Don't know if this is the best idea, but I don't have a small container at hand. I'm going to apply this. You can see with the foam brush how easy it is to apply a lot of stain in just a short amount of time. Yeah, what I've noticed with this stain, it goes on very consistent. If you keep brushing using this foam brush, you get a very consistent result, much more so than with a paper towel. And although I try to prevent stain getting onto the black limba, it's always better to have a little bit of stain underneath the black limba than having a white spot of the maple showing through. I can always try and scrape off the stain that got onto the black limba. I don't know, I think this looks good for now. Let's move on to the cover plates. So now we have to wait for half an hour for this to dry, and we can lightly sand it, look at the result. Yeah, maybe apply a second coat of black, wait another half an hour and apply the purple. So it's been half an hour and it's dried, and I'm going to use one of these very fine sanding pads to lightly touch up and lightly sand down the first layer. And I'm only trying to remove some of the grain that has risen because of the wet stain, and I'm trying to get an even coating and get it as even as possible. So very lightly I'm barely touching the pad. And I use my fingertips to feel for any rough spots where the grain has risen. And I'm trying to achieve as smooth and as consistent result as possible. And this is so very nice of these foam pads. You can just fold them. Right, the body is sanded, and let me do the same with the cover plates and the headstock. So I'm done with the fine sanding, and I've dusted off the entire guitar body and the cover plates and the headstock, of course. Yeah, so time to apply the second layer. Make sure I grab the black one, shake it again. and apply the second layer of black. Now the second layer has been applied and I have to again wait half an hour up to an hour at least for the black to fully dry before I can apply the coat of purple stain. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I'm by no means an expert or an experienced user of stains. This is just trial and error for me, so I can't give you any in-depth tips other than what I'm experiencing at the moment. Yeah. That's it. So it's been an hour, so they should be really dry. So what I'm going to do now, I'm not going to sand it, but I'm just going to use tissue paper or paper towel and just polish them up real nice. And there's enough abrasive, I don't know if it shows up, on the paper towel. Just really polish it and really fine sand it, and you can feel it where there's still some rough spots. Just use the paper towel, they're almost gone. I'm going to try the two covers first to check for color and if the result is what I'm looking for, because those are the most easy to fix if it's not what I'm looking for. I'm going to let this dry for a moment to see if I want the same result on the main guitar body. Well, I think there's nothing else to do but just try it. So let's start with the headstock. The cover plates look okay, and I think I can only tell when it's completely dried and polished. Just a little bit of purple, and here we go. I think it looks good. I don't know how it looks on camera, but from where I'm standing, this is exactly what I was looking for. Just very dark purple, almost black, with just a purple hue, and it seems to have worked. So yeah, let's do the entire body. Well, I'm a bit nervous, to be honest, but here we go. There's a difference in the amount you can do with the black and the purple. The purple, it seems you can cover far less wood with the purple. It seems to penetrate much easier. Yeah, now let it dry and let's wait and see. I don't know, hard to tell, I think. So it's the next day and the stain is fully dried. Last night I removed the masking tape so it wouldn't stick permanently to the body, and I already did some scraping of the edge. There was some bleed through underneath the tape, unfortunately. Yeah, this is the result right now. I'm quite pleased with it, but I think it turned out just a little too dark. I like to see some more contrast, so the 3D effect of the wood is more prominent. So I'm going to scrape the edges just a little more using scrapers, scalpel blades, maybe some fine sandpaper, and to clean up all the edges. And then I have to do some repair work, probably where I've accidentally scraped away some stain from the maple. And then I'm going to try to really lightly sand down everything and try to bring up the contrast some more, and maybe even apply a second layer of purple stain, hopefully to brighten up, and increase the contrast within the figuring of the wood. And I'm going to try it out on one of these control cavity plates, because that's much easier to fix if anything goes wrong. So yeah, let me continue scraping down the sides of the body some more. Where did I put my blade? So I've got a couple of these blades. I always keep all my old discarded blades. I keep them in a little jar, and they're quite good at doing these tasks. They usually are sharp enough to be used as scrapers and such. Now with all the repairs done, I'm going to try to bring some contrast back into this guitar body by very lightly using some steel wool or wire wool on this guitar body. I already did one of the cover plates, and I don't know if it shows up on camera, but yeah, it seems to help to bring back a bit more contrast. So I'm going to very lightly polish up the guitar body. Yeah, this seems to work just fine. Yeah, this really brings back the life into this guitar body. And I think this might be all that it takes. And this is the effect I was after. A very dark purple, black, grayish metallic black from some angles, and a nice deep dark purple from the other angles. So after polishing the finish with the steel wire wool, I kept the guitar overnight and I slept a night on it, and I decided not to apply another coat of stain in this case. Yeah, I like the color the way it is at the moment. It's a blackish, purplish, grayish, almost metallic kind of, almost a metallic kind of color. Yeah, there are kids playing just outside the workshop, so if you hear them, my apologies. They're kids, it's nice weather outside. So yeah, they have to play outside, of course. What was I? So, oh yeah. So I'm not going to do anything on the color of this guitar. I'm going to apply the first coat of the final finish, and for this guitar I'm going to use the Trae Lyx hard wax satin gloss oil, hard wax oil. Yeah, I really like oil finishes on my guitars, and especially this hard wax oil. It gives very nice end result. Yeah, although it might not be as glossy as when I put on some lacquer, but yeah, as you can see, I can't lacquer guitars in my workshop myself, so I have to hire someone and send it out to do the lacquering for me, and I had some different results in the past. So I'm not a huge fan of lacquered guitars. I really like the touch, the feel and the look of an oil finish. So yeah, let's apply some of this hard wax, and I like to apply it just the same as any oil finish. I like to spread it out over the guitar, wait a couple of moments, then rub it off, polish it out with a tea towel I stole from my wife. Don't tell her. Freshly washed, so it's very clean tea towel. Yeah, I'm going to drip on the oil finish, buff it out after a couple of minutes, and wait a day and do the same tomorrow. So let's apply some finish. like French polishing. I like to make just a ball of my tea towel and very gently polish it in. I don't want to rub out any of my stains. Directly on my towel to get in these nooks and crannies. And I keep applying oil until the wood doesn't soak it up anymore. And make sure with hard wax oil, unlike with regular oil, of course regular oil you also have to wipe off the excess. But it's even more important with hard wax oil. If you leave a thick patch anywhere, very hard to remove, and you have to sand it down to remove it. The first time I used it, I applied it way too thick and had to sand the entire guitar back down to fix it. One coat applied to the body. Let's get to the headstock. As you can see from both the headstock and the body, for some reason this brand of hard wax oil doesn't remove that much of stain. Some oils will almost dissolve the stain, and when you apply it, it removes a whole lot, but as you can see it hardly removes any of the stain, hardly any discoloration on my tea towel, unless I'm going to polish real hard, but first I let it dry a little before I start polishing. So yeah, now let's wait a couple of minutes, and then we can also flip the guitar around and do the back. So it's been a couple of minutes and I'm going to use a new fresh tea towel, and it's soaked in entirely, there's no residue left. I'm going to thoroughly wipe it down just in case, and you can already hopefully see some shine appearing. And now this has to cure for at least 16 hours. So tomorrow I'm going to put on a second layer. So wipe out the headstock. And now it's dry enough, cured enough for me to do the other side. But just in case, I'm going to use my towel flip it around, and now do the back of the guitar, the neck, and of course the back of the headstock, and the sides in one go. So there we go. And I'm lucky it's warm today. Easier. This is how they do flooring. The hard wax oil is used for flooring, and then they use just a buffing machine and a few drops of the hard wax oil and buff it in with a machine. And this is essentially the same thing, but doing it by hand. And I'm using a circular motion to really push it into the grain. The black limba is a very open pored wood, and I really want press in the hard wax oil into the grain. And when it hardens, yeah, it also hardens the wood, of course. I've even used it on the spalted Nessa, if you've seen that video. I used it to stabilize spalted maple, and it worked perfectly. This is almost like French polishing without the hassle. Yeah, you couldn't see it, but for the sides I'm just wetting, dampening the cloth, and just wipe it on. Make sure you don't get any drips on the front or the back of the guitar, and that's why I like to do it in one go. So I can wipe away the drips. If the drips harden, you have a hard time getting rid of them. Not too much. Alright, and also, of course, the neck. And I'm trying to prevent any major spills on the fretboard. So that's why I just wet the towel. Let me move this over a bit. So I just put a lot of oil on my towel. And starting at the center, I'm going to wipe it down. So the chances of me spilling a lot on the fretboard are kept to a minimum. So the first coat of oil is done, and now it's time to let it cure for 16 to 20 hours. So I'm going to put it inside of the house, hang it on the wall with a little hanger, and let it cure. And yeah, tomorrow I'm going to apply a second coat, and then it has to cure for about a week. So unfortunately I have to look at this guitar for a week, but yeah, I still have some videos to edit, so that's no problem. I don't have to worry I get bored. So yeah, tomorrow I'm going to do the exact same thing, apply a second coat, and then hang it on the wall for about a week until it's fully cured and hardened. And then I'm going to apply a wax top coat to really buff out the shine and to give it some extra protection. So yeah, let's put everything down and let's hang it on the wall. So it's been a week already. Yeah, the hard wax oil should have cured enough to apply the final layers or a final coat of this microcrystalline wax. And during this week, off camera, I also drilled the holes for these cover plates. And as you can see by the sheen and the reflection on this cover plate, I already did a bit of testing with the microcrystalline wax. I couldn't help myself just to test it out on these two cover plates, and yeah, they turned out great. So I'm very confident this guitar will look stunning in just a couple of moments. So what I'm going to do is just take a clean rag or a clean cotton cloth and just buff in some of this microcrystalline wax, very thin, very lightly. Let it sit for about 15 to 20 minutes and then buff it out. And you can buff it out by hand, but I'm probably going to use a buffing attachment on my cordless drill to really buff it out. So here we go. Open it in. Really white, smelling of white spirit. Wrong one. And just put on the smallest amount. Don't leave a big layer of wax. Just apply it as thin as you possibly can. As with all finishes, it's better to have a couple of thin, very thin layers than one thick one usually. So that's what I'm going. So that's what I'm trying to do. And now let all the solvents in the wax evaporate. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes, and I can see that in the meantime I can change the battery of the camera. So 20 minutes has passed in a blink of an eye. New batteries in the camera, and now it's time to buff out the wax on this guitar. Alright, fresh cloth. And of course a buffing attachment for my cordless drill of a low setting, just to give it an initial buff. And if you have access to a buffing wheel, you can of course use a buffing wheel on this microcrystalline wax. And let's put in some elbow grease. I always get a feeling that using a cloth works way better. Yeah, I think we're basically there. You can buff it and polish it for hours if you want, but I think this is good. And look at the shine on this guitar. Really shows a lot of color. I think this is an excellent finish for this guitar. Like I said in previous videos, I don't like lacquered guitars myself. I like to keep some of the natural textures and such of the wood itself. And the main thing of doing these finishes is just to protect the guitar, give it a nice natural feel. It just still feels like wood, though it's very smooth. You can still feel it's wood. So, and here is the end result of our finishing stage. I'm very, very pleased, and it might have turned out even better than I anticipated or than what I hoped for. Yeah, really nice coloring. From some angles the guitar looks just plain black, and when you start turning it into a different light, it starts to show the purple hue, and from other angles it's just a purple guitar. Yeah, I really like how this finish turned out, and as you can see with the hard wax oil and the microcrystalline wax, yeah, it has a great sheen to it. And I think the nice part of having an oil and wax finish, the more you use it and the more you take care of this guitar and you polish it and clean it with the proper products, it only gets more beautiful with each time you clean it and you polish it up, you buff it out again. Yeah, it gets more and more shiny each time. Very easy to maintain, and also the microcrystalline wax has a higher melting point than ordinary waxes, so it shouldn't leave any fingerprints and such. Yeah, it's more durable, more resistant to water and moisture and such than regular waxes. Yeah, I really loved how the product works. Yeah, I'm going to use that more often on future builds. Yeah, I can't stop looking at this guitar and the little screen next to my camera to see the shine on this guitar. I'm really happy with how this turned out. But unfortunately, this is where I'm going to leave it for this week's episode. In the next episode, of course, I'm going to do the final assembly of this guitar and hopefully get a lovely playing instrument. And yeah, as always, if you like this video and if you like to support me, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, check out my other videos. Yeah, for example, the entire build of this guitar, start in the playlist on episode 1. Yeah, and I hope to see you in the next video. But until then, have a nice week.